In the year 1751, a young girl named Mary is in a white dress, skipping through a garden, singing a song. She wanders away from the garden into a dense forest. After walking for a while, she approaches an old hidden well with overgrown brush covering it. She moves some of the weeds and branches to the side and slowly leans over, looking down curiously. She continues leaning, stretching more, until a stone suddenly comes loose, making her fall forward and down into the cold, dark well. She is never seen or heard from again. Over time, all hope vanishes. Her anguished parents and the perplexed community give up looking for her, with her parents even moving out of state, leaving her lost body behind. 100 years pass, and Jack lives near this property with the well. There's not much to worry about when you're only 12 years old. Jack's father and mother do the best they can trying to raise him and his 7-year-old brother Pip and 4-year-old sister Ginny while struggling to make ends meet. Jack's mother is a wonderful baker who uses secret recipes passed down from generations. She cooks from their house, selling baked goods to the local general store. While Jack's father is the overseer of one of the largest properties in the county, the Wisteria Manor. It was named for the hundreds of wisteria trees with their climbing vines and leaves which droop 12-inch long purple, pink, white flower clusters that hug and wrap around some of the mansion and surrounding grounds. The sweet fragrance of the blooms attract many varieties of birds and butterflies. With so much swirling in the air, there's always a feeling that the Wisteria Manor has a magical life force of its own. Some people remark they feel like they're being watched by someone and never feel alone there. Others who pass by say the place makes you want to stop and stare as if something is beckoning you to come closer. The Wisteria Manor is enormous, with white round columns on the front and sides and wraparound porches on 2 levels. Painted a brilliant white, it commands attention. It was built by a wealthy Frenchman in the early 1700s when Ohio was divided with France, claiming the northern half of the great state, and England declaring the southern portion. The French influences are seen with wrought iron trellis work wrapped around porches and entries like the Wisteria vines, which complement the manor and its name. Throughout the years, the manor withstood several battles, first between France and England, later between the new American colonies and England during the Revolutionary War. Rumor had it that in order to escape from any invading forces or unwelcome intruders, the Frenchmen constructed secret passageways inside the mansion and long underground tunnels on the grounds. It is also rumored that in the Frenchman's hasty retreat from English bombardment, he hid his large fortune somewhere on the property, and it was never found. The property had many different owners over the years, but it was finally purchased by a wealthy gentleman named William Byron. That brings us to this morning in 1851, which began like most with the combined scent fresh baked breads and pies lingering in the air at Jack's house. Being a hard worker, his father usually left before sunrise for his duties at the Wisteria Manor. Ginny isn't old enough to do many chores, but helps her mother in the kitchen by rolling out dough for pies. The boys do whatever they can to help their humble parents, who support their children in every way possible. They make it seem to the kids that there's always a light at the end of every tunnel, and to never give up on dreaming about a better tomorrow. Jack and Pip's first chores are to gather eggs from the henhouse, then tend the stalls of their horse Mabel and goat Patience. Mabel is an old mare that has been with the family longer than Jack. Patience, on the other hand, is the same age as Ginny and got his name from eating the wooden gate of his stall if he didn't get fed first. The boys pack up all the baked goods for the store, hitch the goat to the wooden 2-wheeled cart, and proceed down the cobblestone road for their 2-hour morning delivery to Lawson's General Store. After exchanging pleasantries and taking care of the day's order, Jack hands his mother's list of needed items to the friendly Mrs. Lawson. She motions for them to pick out some candy for themselves and one for Ginny while they wait. Lawson's store has one entire wall of rows and rows of glass candy jars filled with different types of candy. Jack and Pip feel like they're in another world whenever they visit this store. One bright morning, even more so for Jack, as it changed his destiny. When he was about Pip's age, he ran to the glass window of this store when he saw a little girl pulling up in a shiny black carriage pulled by 2 white stallions. When she stepped out of the carriage, Jack's mouth dropped open as he gazed at her for what seemed like an eternity. Her hair was a beautiful blonde color with curls that shimmered in the sunlight. She was wearing a pretty gold-rimmed hat, white gloves, and an ankle-length ruffled dress. Jack had never given girls any mind at all, but there was something about her that kept him fixated, especially when she looked his way, smiled, turned, and walked away with a man who stepped out of the carriage. Jack's father, who had taken him to the store that day, kept calling his name, snapping his fingers in front of Jack's face, but the boy wouldn't budge. Finally, he gave Jack a little smack on the head with his hat and said, "Your mother and I have always supported your aspirations, but don't get your hopes up, boy. She's in another world than ours." Jack didn't understand. "Who was that girl?" he asked. Then his father explained all the way back to their home. Evelyn is the granddaughter of William Byron, the owner of the Wisteria Manor. Her mother died in a tragic accident, and her father remarried. They had moved from Michigan to take care of the father and the property, as William's health is starting to fail, and he needs his son, Edward, to be prepared to take over. Catherine was Evelyn's new stepmother. She was tall and slender with long jet black hair, stunning and seemingly nice, but it was all an act. Catherine was a close friend of Evelyn's mother, Margaret. She was always jealous of Margaret's natural beauty, intelligence, and wealth, and would flirt with her husband every chance possible. Margaret, on the other hand, was a very kind person and would go out of her way to assist someone in need. Catherine had always been a selfish, spiteful, and bitter person who would stop at nothing to get her way. One evening, Catherine got her chance to steal Edward away when Margaret mysteriously slipped and fell off the edge of a cliff. People in town always had their suspicions about Margaret's death and thought Catherine might have had something to do with it. She was the last to see her, but nothing could ever be proven. Catherine wasted no time after Margaret's death to win over Edward, and only 1 year later they were married. She didn't love Edward. She was only out for herself and his money. Evelyn reminded Catherine of Margaret naturally, so she despised the little girl. She would punish her for just about anything to drive a wedge between Evelyn and her father. Edward would never intervene with the way Catherine treated his daughter. He would cowardly look down and ignore anything. Evelyn felt like a stranger, not welcome in her own home. The only person to stand up to Catherine was Evelyn's mammy, Gwendolyn. She was employed to take care of Evelyn since birth, and the two were extremely close. Evelyn confided in Gwendolyn about anything. "Why is Catherine so mean to me?" Evelyn repeatedly shouted to demand an explanation. "I have done nothing to her, and Father never says a word, ever." Gwendolyn's eyes would tear up, not knowing how to respond. "I miss my mother so much," Evelyn would cry, putting her head against Gwendolyn. "It will be all right. Your mother loved you so much, and her spirit will always be with you. Now you grab your coat, and you can come with me to town," Gwendolyn said. That night, Evelyn had a wonderful dream of her and her mother laughing and dancing in the garden. They swirled round and round, looking up at the dark sky. Then, in the middle of the spinning, she heard a pop, and the dream went to pitch black. Suddenly, a small glow of light appeared. The light got brighter until it filled darkness. Evelyn could see the image of 2 women walking. It was her mother and Catherine. She felt as though she was floating above them, and watched an argument start. She heard Catherine shout to Margaret as the two moved round and round closer to the edge of a cliff. You know, you just don't want to admit it that I'm better than you, and Edward deserves better. Then Catherine pulled out a long knife and started waving it back and forth in front of Margaret's face, forcing her to gradually move closer to the cliff's edge. Why are you doing this to me? Margaret shouted. I've done nothing to you, and you are my so-called best friend. Catherine laughed loudly. Ha! It's funny how gullible some women like you can be. With that, Catherine lunged the knife again toward Margaret's stomach, making her lose footing and fall backwards off the steep and rocky cliff to her death. Before her mother hit the ground, Evelyn woke up screaming. Gwendolyn ran into the room hurriedly. What's wrong, dear? Did you have a terrible dream? As Evelyn began telling her what happened in the dream, the mammy's eyes widened in shock from what she'd heard and what she was seeing. As she peered over the little girl's shoulder, she could see the shadow of someone standing in the hallway by the door listening. She calmed Evelyn best she could as she waited for the shadow to disappear. Then she quietly returned to her room. Later that night, Gwendolyn awakened with a start and went to the kitchen for some water. There, she spotted Catherine in her robe, reading some legal paperwork. Startled, Catherine jumped from the table and criticized Gwendolyn, who had tried to defend Evelyn. It was no use. Catherine grabbed a butcher's knife and chased her out of the mansion and into the barn, where they fought ferociously. The knife flew out of Catherine's hand at one point. That only emboldened her more, and she pulled a sledgehammer from the wall to drive in her points. Gwendolyn could not compete with Catherine's evilness and, sadly, met her demise. Unable to move Gwendolyn's mature frame much, and with a lack of desire in her cold-hearted nature, Catherine simply hid the body in the barn until she could find a better time and way to remove it. When Evelyn awoke the next morning and asked for her mammy, Catherine explained with a fake and sarcastic smile, "Oh, she decided to live with her sister in Louisiana." The only time Catherine would smile was when she knew it would make someone unhappy in her favor. "What?" Evelyn shouted. "She didn't even say goodbye? It's because of you, isn't it?" Now Evelyn felt truly alone for the first time, also scared to even live in the same house with Catherine. One night soon after, Catherine was tidying a vacant room downstairs when she heard a strange noise from behind the wall. She felt like she was being watched. She abruptly turned to see nothing, then heard it again. "Edward, is that you?" she loudly called into the other room. She heard him laughing with Evelyn as they were intent on a game, so she announced she was retiring for the evening. As she climbed the stairway, the air got colder, and the candles in the stairwell chandelier flickered. The hairs on her arms started to tingle and rise up. She could see her breath in the candlelight as she exhaled and began to tremble with the chill. Suddenly, she heard a loud knock. William had been ill, so she thought perhaps the noises were him tossing in his sleep. She cracked open William's bedroom door and found him sound asleep. As she quietly shut his door, she turned to see Margaret's spirit, smiling with a devilish grin. "I'm coming for you, Catherine, and no one else." Then Margaret's beautiful face turned into a ghoulish skeleton, and she started flying with her arms extended as if she was reaching for Catherine. Catherine gasped and ran into her bedroom, slamming the door. "It's all in your imagination," she said to herself, shaking uncontrollably. "I'll not believe it," she said, as she then locked the door and ran to the far end of the room, crouching in the corner and staring at the door in fear until Edward finally appeared for bedtime. As time went by, Jack would spot Evelyn in town or catch a glimpse of her when he would take his father to lunch on certain days at the Wisteria Manor. He became increasingly attracted to her and eager to actually meet her. His mother approached him about it one day. "Your father says you must have a crush on Evelyn." Jack groaned and yelled, "Yuck! I don't even like girls." Pip heard them and started nudging Jack's shoulder and singing, "Jack has a girlfriend, Jack has a girlfriend." "That's it, you're going to get it," Jack yelled, and grabbed his little brother's arm. Their mother broke them apart and said, "Go gather the eggs from the henhouse that you forgot this morning. Once you're both done with that, I'll let you take your father his lunch today." "Come on, Pip, let's get this done," Jack replied. Eggs were collected in record time then, and the two boys were off to the Wisteria with their goat Patience in the wagon. "Yah!" Jack shouted. "Giddy up!" The bell around the goat's neck jingled as he ran faster. "Hang on," Jack shouted. "We're going to see what he can do." Patience was strong from pulling a fully loaded wagon of goods most of the time, so when the wagon was mostly empty, he could pull it with little ease. Faster and faster they went. "Watch what you're doing, you crazy kids!" a man yelled as he jumped out of their way on a winding cobblestone street. Patience was in a gallop, weaving in and out and around people, horses, buggies, almost tipping over on one wheel. Finally, they were approaching the entrance of the WGAW Manor, beautifully adorned with gigantic trees and a long lane leading to the majestic front door. But Patience showed no sign of slowing down. Suddenly, one of the reins broke, and Jack couldn't steer or stop him. "Watch out!" Pip shouted to Jack as they saw a horse and carriage coming down the lane from the mansion and heading straight for them. Jack screamed at his brother, "We have to jump now!" as he reached for Pip, and they dove to the side, rolling the grass while Patience swerved around the horse and carriage, barely missing it. The horse reared up, and the carriage came to a complete stop. This would be Jack's first encounter with Evelyn's stepmother, Catherine, for she was in the carriage alone. "Who are you evil children?" Catherine screamed. "You almost killed me! Why are you here?" Jack and Pip slowly stood up, brushing off the grass and dirt from their torn clothes. Their legs were shaking with fright. I mean, we're the sons of Mr. Taylor, who works at the Wisteria. My name is Jack Taylor, and this is Peter. Well, he goes by Pip. It was an accident. My rein broke, and I couldn't stop." "Hush up," Catherine hissed. "Get that goat and wagon out of here, and don't ever let me see it again, or I'll be certain to tell your father what you little hooligans have been doing." With that, she cracked her whip, and the horse and carriage raced down the lane, leaving behind a cloud of dust in a moment of silence, except for the hummingbirds. Then in the distance, they heard some giggles. The boys looked around until they spotted Evelyn hiding behind a statue. "Hello?" Jack said shyly. She stepped out and asked their names. "I'm Evelyn, but you can call me Eve. I think you'd better practice on your riding skills before you consider driving a horse." She chuckled again. Jack stammered, unable to get his tongue to move, and she skipped away. Needless to say, that's not how Jack wanted to exchange initial greetings, but that's how it went. The boys fixed the ride with a rope best they could and argued all the way home about who was at fault. Next morning, Jack had his chores done in record time. "Bye, Mother," Jack yelled. "I'm headed over to the WGAW Manor to help Father in the stables." "Okay, but leave Pip here because I need his help. Try to stay out of trouble this time, you hear?" Jack's mother shouted as he ran out the door. It didn't take long for Jack to finish his voluntary barn tasks before he saw Evelyn outside playing in one of the gardens. Jack walked slowly toward her, anxiously trying to think of what to say. He leaned up against the stone wall that divided the garden, and this time the words flowed naturally. After that, Jack and Evelyn would see each other as often as they could. One day she said to him, "You believe in ghosts?" "No, why?" Jack replied without hesitation. She was only too quick to share. "Well, I do. This place is haunted. I've seen my dead mother's spirit, and I heard a little girl vanished from here many years ago. They never found her body, but people say they have seen her spirit playing in the Wisteria garden. They say she peeks through the vines. Once she's been spotted, she'll disappear, though." Jack shook his head in disbelief. "Really? But if you sing her favorite song, her spirit will come to life through the wisteria vines and stay longer. She told me, Evelyn continued. Who told you? Jack asked. A young girl in a dream who sang a special song. I'm not sure of all the words, but wrote it down what I could remember. Sometimes I hear strange noises in the walls of my room, too. That could be her. Jack laughed out loud. Yeah, I bet the trees dance, too. With that, Evelyn moved close to Jack's face. In a serious tone, she whispered, if you're not too chicken, meet me after the sun goes down in the rose garden. Let's say 11 o'clock tonight. She ran back to the mansion while Jack yelled after her, I'm not scared of any creepy ghost. Shucks, it's the living you have to watch out for. Jack had to sneak out of his house that night, climbing through a window onto a porch overhang and jumping onto the ground. When he arrived at the Wisteria Manor, the wind was howling and the trees were blowing in all directions. Clouds moved swiftly through the darkness. He crept along the garden walls, past the life-size marble figure sculptures, trying not to be noticed. As he crouched behind a large hedge waiting for Evelyn, he heard a ghoulish howl. There it was again. His palms started sweating and his heart started racing. Psst, you made it, Evelyn whispered as she snuck up behind him. He jolted intensely. You're here. Wasn't that you howling just a moment ago? Sorry, Evelyn said. I couldn't sneak out until now. We're both here at last. Let's try this. Jack took her hand and they walked closer to the wisteria vines against the stone wall. Then Evelyn started softly singing the little ghost girl's favorite song, the one she sang while skipping through the gardens when she was alive. The night is dark, the day is bright, the sun and moon shine with delight. The stars that twinkle, so they say, will fall again some other day. She kept singing the same lyrics over and over when suddenly Jack heard a strange noise. The wind blew harder, the wisteria flowers began to open and close, swaying back and forth with the vines. Surprisingly, a vine tightly wrapped around Jack's leg and started to pull him toward the foliage. Stop singing, Jack shouted. She stopped immediately. The vine rapidly released Jack's leg and everything became still. They looked at each other in shock. We better get out of here, Evelyn said. They both ran toward the mansion until they discovered Catherine staring down at them by candlelight from a second-story window. Holy crap, Evelyn shouted. Run home as fast as you can, Jack. Catherine prevented Jack from visiting Evelyn after that, but fate could not keep them apart. They kept bumping into each other when Evelyn was finally permitted to venture to town. While she was waiting in the horse carriage one day with her father, Jack ran up to her. They devised a plan to write letters to each other, then hide them under a certain rock on the outer wall at the Wisteria Manor. It was the only way they could communicate these days. William Byron was now gravely ill, and doctors could not figure out why. Evelyn was the apple of his eye, which drove Catherine mad with jealousy. One day, William was berating his son Edward for not standing up to Catherine and the way she treated his granddaughter. Catherine caught the entire conversation from inside a hidden wall she had discovered by accident. She told no one of her find so she could secretly spy on everyone. It enabled her to look for the hidden fortune of the Frenchman, too, so she could keep it all to herself. The hidden walls were conveniently in every room throughout the mansion, with hidden peepholes. Even better, she discovered, were the tunnels throughout the grounds, with one leading to a river that adjoined the Wisteria's property. After overhearing William's lecture, Catherine decided to take care of her problem in her own way: murder. The next morning, she was as nice as she could be. William was wheeled down in his wheelchair for his morning breakfast as usual. Catherine was eager to help by making and bringing his tea, but this was no ordinary tea. It was made with the poisonous oleander leaves that Catherine had earlier picked and crushed into a fine powder. Within the hour, William Byron lay dead, which everyone assumed was from natural causes. Evelyn was devastated and spent weeks grieving the loss of her grandfather, always keeping her suspicions about Catherine. Edward was also mysteriously becoming ill, and Catherine became more controlling. As Evelyn wandered around the mansion aimlessly one day, she noticed something hanging from the mantel of the fireplace in the great room. She pushed it gently, and the side wall opened. Whoosh! She gasped and touched the lever again, and the wall closed. She pushed the lever again. With that opening, she cautiously entered the dark, gloomy hallway filled with cobwebs. Following the hallway, she could slightly see pinholes of daylight shining in certain spots through the walls and discovered the secret peepholes. Eventually, she found her way to the lower part of the mansion, which led her to a small door. She entered a dark, long, straight tunnel. Water on both sides of the narrow path. Frogs jumped into the water ahead of her, and rats scurried back and forth. Barely seeing where she was going, she realized that the tunnel went right to the river to the side of the mansion. She could see light barely shining in and could hear the gushing water from the river behind an overhead door. She pushed that with all her might, and the trap door swung open, where she was able to climb out next to the riverbank. As soon as she got back to the mansion, Evelyn wrote to Jack about the finds in her daily letter. She asked to meet him by the river the next night so she could show him the secret tunnel. As Jack was climbing out the window, he accidentally hit his head, which awakened Pip. "Hey, where are you going? If I can't go too, I'm going to wake everyone up. You don't want to have another week of chores, do you? All by yourself?" "Oh, all right. Just come on and be quiet," whispered harshly. When the boys reached the river where Jack was to meet Evelyn, fog had begun to form a little bit over the cool water, and there was a slight mist in the air. They started hearing the same ghoulish howl that Jack heard the previous time. "Whoo!" Pip trembled with his eyes wide open in disbelief. "Okay, I'm out of here," he wailed. "No, stop," Evelyn said as she stepped out from behind a tree. "I'm here. You don't understand. We are really not alone." Jack motioned for her to come closer. Then the trio proceeded to make their way down the riverbank until they reached the hidden trapdoor. "Keep close and stay quiet," Evelyn stated as she pulled out the 2 candles and Jack lit them. Then they entered the tunnel and into a night that would change their lives forever. Meanwhile, Edward was lying in bed upstairs of the mansion getting sicker as Catherine slowly poisoned him with the oleander tea, just the way she killed his father. In her mind, it was simply the best to get rid of the whole family. That way, she could have all the benefits of the WISTERIA Manor without any questions, and more easily find the Frenchman's fortune. Why not enjoy the good life, she sang to herself over and over. When the kids came to the end of the tunnel that connected to the mansion with a small door, it creaked as Evelyn opened it. They were now in the lower level of the mansion's inner walls. They quietly made their way to the first floor and could see the light glowing from the kitchen. Evelyn moved the small piece of wood covering a peephole. She saw Catherine making the poisonous tea in clear view on the table as she was crushing the oleander leaves into a fine powder. Evelyn gasped and whispered, "Oh my God, I was right." Just then, Pip stumbled backwards, falling down and making a loud noise as he hit the floor. Bang! Catherine quickly turned around, hearing it, while the cup and saucer went flying out of her hand. They smashed into tiny pieces as they hit the floor. She angrily walked to the wall and stared at it, only inches away from Evelyn's face on the other side. All 3 kids held their breaths, trying not to move. Pip started to whimper, and Evelyn handed him her candle as she whispered, "Come on, let's get out of here." The three walked as fast as they could to get back to the river until they saw Catherine glaring at them by candlelight at the end of the long tunnel. She held a large, sharp, and shiny butcher's knife that glimmered from the glow of the candlelight. "You!" Catherine shrieked and ran towards them through the dark tunnel. "Run!" screamed Evelyn as the kids stumbled through the dark, through the maze as Catherine was closing in on them. "Let's try this way," Pip yelled. And with that, they were at the entrance to the barn in no time. "We can hide in here." But as he moved another piece of wood over to get the door of the stalls open, it triggered a lever which brought down another large piece of wood. That shoved Pip inside, and suddenly a stiff, cold body fell out on top of Pip, pinning him to the barn floor. It was the corpse of Gwendolyn. "Ah!" They all started screaming. "Get her off me!" Pip yelled at the top of his lungs. They pulled him away from her and ran to the other side of the barn where they found a ladder. "We can go upstairs to hide behind the bales of hay," Jack ordered, remembering what was in the attic from all the times he had helped his father. The kids ran up behind him, but as soon as they entered, they noticed a bright, glowing orb flying right in front of them. As they followed it, it would slow down and wait on them to catch up. Then it turned in different directions until it rested on the face of a large stone. Pip reached out to touch the glowing ball when the rock behind it magically slid to the side, then opened to reveal stairs leading down into a dark tunnel. "Come on, let's go," Jack yelled. "We have no choice. I can hear Catherine running in the barn, and the horses are whinnying now." "But we don't know where that goes," Evelyn said. "What do we have to lose at this point?" asked Pip. The tunnel kept going down, making the children more frightened. It was getting colder in the dark, damp air. The tunnel finally reached a dead end in what was once the bottom of an old well. There, lying in front of them, was the small, human skeletal remains of a young girl still in her white dress, although it was now covered in grime. It was Mary, the ghost girl of the Wisteria Manor. The children screamed and stared, not knowing what to do. "Oh my gosh, it's her! It's really her! The rumors about the ghost girl are true. She must have fallen down the well and no one knew," Jack gulped. "Until now," Evelyn finished the sentence. "May God bring peace to her soul." She made the sign of the Holy Cross on her chest as she slowly backed away. As she took another step in her daze, thinking about little Mary, she accidentally tripped and fell. It jarred a large rock that made other rocks tumble down, barely revealing a hidden area just a few feet away on the opposite side of the cave. After helping Evelyn, Jack looked up and pointed to the cave, prompting the kids to cautiously walk over to that area. They gasped as they saw a large old trunk covered in dirt with a metal lock. "Here," Jack said, who picked up a big rock. "Let's try to break it open." Smash! Jack hit the lock and nothing happened. Smash, smash! He would not stop smacking it until the lock sprang open. Open it, Evelyn exclaimed. Jack slowly lifted the lid of the old trunk, and to their surprise, it was filled to the top with gold and silver bars, gold coins, jewels, and diamonds. Jack and Pip started filling their pockets and hats. "Stop!" Evelyn cried out. "We have to do the right thing and report this to the authorities. And we still have to make it out of here alive. We know where it is now, and we can come back later. We've got to go." "You're right," Jack said. "Empty your pockets, Pip. It will just weigh you down in more ways than one." They dumped the gold and silver coins back into the trunk and ran out as fast as they could with Evelyn through the tunnel as a few leftover gold coins continued to fall out from the bottom of Pip's trousers. "Oh, I know where we are now," Evelyn said as they reached an upper path. "Follow me." They made their way up to the first level of the mansion, where she remembered a secret passage door in the parlor room. Whoosh! The wall quickly opened, and all three kids ran upstairs to tell Edward about Catherine. But they couldn't because he was unconscious in bed and could not be awakened. Then they heard footsteps running up the staircase. It was Catherine. "She's coming. Come on," shouted Evelyn. Their only exit was the bedroom window. There was a large wisteria tree that hugged that side of the mansion, and they were able to climb down on the vines and branches to the ground before Catherine could catch them. They ran away from the house and into the gardens to hide, but that proved to be a bad idea. It had high stone walls and a path with a dead end. There was no escape, as they heard her coming at the break of dawn. They crouched as low as they could and were afraid to make any moves for noise, but knew they would eventually be found in the light. Pip began to cry, just loud enough that it identified their exact spot as soon as Catherine approached. Come out, wherever you are," Catherine sang in a devilish voice, knowing full well where they hid. "Now I've got you, and there's no escape, you little brats." She slowly started to walk toward the children with her butcher's knife. Can we talk about this?" Evelyn pleaded. "You killed my grandfather and my mammy, didn't you? Just like you killed my mother. And now you're trying to kill my father too. You can't kill us all." Catherine just started laughing in her demonic way. "Yes, your poor mother, Margaret." She circled them, thinking about that day on the cliff. Reminiscing, she didn't realize she now had her back against the stone wall of the Wisteria garden. "Curiosity killed the cat, didn't you know?" as she raised the knife to strike. "Eve, sing the song!" Jack shouted. "The song of the girl, Eve, sing it!" Eve nervously began singing the forbidden song of the ghost child. "The night is dark, the day is bright, the sun and moon shine with delight, the stars that twinkle, so they say." "Louder, Eve!" Jack shouted. "We'll fall again some other day." Eve jumped up, almost yelling at the top of her lungs, again and again. "The night is dark, the day is bright, the sun and moon shine with delight, the stars that twinkle, so they say, we'll fall again some other day." With that, the wind began to blow fiercely, and suddenly a tiny hand appeared out of the bushes, grabbing and tugging on Catherine's long dress. "Ah!" Catherine screamed, "Let me go!" Then the wisteria vines and flowers began wrapping around Catherine's ankles and wrists. "No!" she yelled as she tried to cut the vines with her butcher's knife, wanting to pull the grip of the vines. Jack and Pip sang the song again and again with Evelyn, and the louder they sang, the stronger the wisteria vines became. "Stop singing that bloody song!" shouted Catherine. There were too many vines to cut through at this point, which made her drop the knife. "You evil children, I'll get you!" As Catherine was fighting to escape, she would only be pulled back. The wisteria vines continued to creep up, with the other plant life now following suit and seemingly making their way toward her. The vines eventually wrapped around her neck and gradually tightened their grip to strangle her. The children just watched in horror and relief, knowing they were being saved from their own early deaths. Catherine choked. Then fell to the ground with her eyes wide open and bloodshot. Then the children heard a girl giggling from above. To their surprise, the ghost girl of the WGAW Manor swooped down in front of them and blew them a kiss. She smiled charmingly, then skipped away in an ethereal way down the garden path, singing her favorite song. As she faded away, the harsh wind stopped blowing and everything became calm again. For a moment, there was complete silence. Even the morning birds stopped chirping and squawking. With Gwendolyn's body in the barn and Catherine's dead body by the wall on the property, the children knew this was too much for them to handle. The local constables and police were needed, and Evelyn wanted everything to be dealt with in a proper manner. The kids ran back to the house to tell Edward all that had happened, but there was no time. He had taken a turn for the worse and needed immediate medical attention. Earlier, Jack's dad awakened with a jump, having the sensation that something was amiss. He ran to Pip and Jack's room to find them gone. He immediately thought of the plantation, since he knew how much Jack wanted to be with Evelyn. He would soon be needed at his job there anyway. So he threw on his work clothes and raced to the manor. Miraculously, Mr. Taylor arrived just as the kids were running out of Edward's room to get help. They told him everything. Jack's dad saw to it that Edward was taken to a nearby hospital by 2 more plantation workers who had just arrived for their day. This got Edward out of the house for a while to not add to the stress of his health. In addition, they didn't want other workers to see anything suspicious. Then the kids showed Mr. Taylor the dead bodies of Catherine, Gwendolyn, and even the skeletal remains of the ghost girl Mary at the bottom of the well, and the treasure. He knew the police may not believe this story, and he wanted to protect all of the children. Yet he was an honest man. That day he told the police everything at the station, with the kids sitting beside him, witnessing. Things moved quickly after that, with the authorities protecting the children and Mr. Taylor. The deaths of the grandfather, William, the mother, Margaret, and Mammy Gwendolyn were all ruled as murders by Catherine. Hers was ruled a suicide. Little Mary's death was ruled an accident, finally putting speculations to rest. Since no known family of Mary's existed anymore, as all had long perished or could not be found, the treasure went to Edward and the Wisteria estate. Edward made a full recovery and changed the way he treated Evelyn. He became the loving father he used to be when Margaret was alive. He even bequeathed the treasure to Evelyn as her dowry for her eventual marriage. He also gave a large monetary gift to the Taylor family for their assistance in solving the crimes. Jack's parents had nothing to worry about anymore and soon retired. People still talk about that very formal memorial service outside on the grounds of the WISTERIA Manor under a big white tent. It seemed everyone living in the county appeared to pay their respects. As all 3 caskets lined up on the front drive to go to their respective burial sites, it was mysteriously quiet. The ghost girl seemed to find peace at last and was not seen anymore by anyone. There once was a young couple named Jack and Eve. They grew up around here. They eventually married, lived in a big, beautiful home called the WISTERIA Manor. They had 5 healthy children and named their firstborn Mary Margaret Taylor. I'm a descendant, and they named me after her.
you.